Hi everyone, welcome to another week of talking about our mental health and well-being. I hope your week is going well for you. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little tired of some of the phrases that I'm hearing at the moment, and one of them is the new normal. I'm kind of feeling like I don't actually want to live in a new normal. I just want normal back. And it feels like with some of the restrictions lifting and some cafes and restaurants opening and gathering numbers are starting to increase, it sort of feels like we're on the verge of going back to normal, except I think we all know we're not going to be in normal for quite some time. I think we're well and truly in this phase two, as they call it, and we're probably going to be here for quite some time. In fact, I heard a pastor last week of one of the largest churches in Australia say they're already thinking that they're not going to be able to gather as a church for probably a year. And that's a really long time to wait, isn't it, when we're connected in community in that way. And while activities can be modified to allow us to meet, there's still things like, use of hygiene practices and cleaning and social distancing. All of those things have got to be done. So we're trying to live normally, but we're needing to do it differently. And this season reminds me a little bit of a season we went through a couple of years ago when my mother-in-law passed away. It was a season of great loss. And while we were ready to say goodbye, she had been sick for a very long time and we were relieved she wasn't suffering anymore. We just all had to adjust to a new normal, and life had to go on for us. We still had to go to work and we had families and the kids still went to school, but things just didn't feel the same without her in our lives anymore. And the normal traditions we had around birthdays and Christmases, they just didn't feel the same when she wasn't part of them. We didn't give up celebrating, of course, or participating in all of those because we knew she wouldn't have wanted that for us, but everything felt different and we had to adjust to a new normal without her being with us in our lives. So I think there's a few things we can remind ourselves of while we're living in this season. Living in a new normal is not always easy, and it may go on longer than we think. And I think we just need to remind ourselves of that. Most of us feel comfortable with the familiar, whether that's our work, our routines, our experiences, our people, and our normal has been disrupted in this season, but it will pass eventually. Another thing to remember is that adjustment is different for everyone. Some of us love change and adjust to change really quickly and settle into new routines faster than others. Others of us find that really difficult and it might take a lot longer for that to happen. Some of us may even be angry about it, or we might get depressed. So be gentle on yourself and be gentle on others around you. It's also good to remember that a new normal may involve some grief and loss, and grief and loss has some very distinct phases to it, which includes denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then eventually acceptance. So you may be feeling some of those words, and it might be related to some grief and loss that you've felt during this pandemic. It could be relational loss. It could be a loss of connection. It could be loss of work, whether it's the entire loss of your job or a change in your job role or less work than you were able to do before. So just do a little inventory and just have a little think about whether you might be experiencing some grief or loss related to this new normal, and recognize and name it. That will be really important and really helpful. And there's a few things we can do as well in this season. I think one of the best things to do is if you can lean into acceptance. By all means, name it. It sucks. We don't want to be here. But saying things like, it is what it is, we are where we are, and coming to a place of acceptance will be really important for our ability to move on and move forward. So if you can lean into some acceptance of the situation, that will be helpful. Of course, there is the focus on what you can do rather than on what you can't do. We all know there's a whole heap of things that we can't do, but there's a whole heap of things that we can do. So we just have to do them a little bit differently. It really helps if we can be glass half full people rather than glass half empty people in this season. And of course, finally, be kind to yourself. Plan some things that you enjoy doing that are fun. Look after your self-care. Maybe embrace some of these opportunities in this season. They might be different, but they might be a great opportunity for self-growth.